Let's make some noise. Come on.
Oh, thank you, Nick Foles, and welcome, everyone. Welcome, one and all, back to another episode, or another week. Just not one episode, another week of the Final Word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Our premiere week episode, our Sunday night, our first episode of the week. It's great to be back. Great to be rejuvenated. Had a few days off, except for some Fighting's Final duty that I did adequately, I believe, over the last couple days, and I will be continuing my Fighting's Final tour tomorrow, as I got one more day of it, then a little bit of a break. So we're back here on the Final Word, and we are going to have a kind of a weird week, as it's been kind of lately. Tonight, yes. Tomorrow, no. Tuesday, yes. Wednesday, no. Or Wednesday, yes. Thursday, no. I think every night this week except for tomorrow night. There will be no fight. There'll be no Final Word tomorrow night because I got two other shows I got to do. So don't know how this all happened or why things are kind of like this, but you know what? We're going to roll with it and do the best we can. So it's great to be back, and we do have a lot to talk about, a lot going on, as always. Never seems to be a shortage of those things to discuss. And tonight, interesting follow-up to today's Phillies action. The Phillies with the 1-0 win over the Pirates in what I believe a preview of a marquee pitching matchup of the future between Paul Skeens of the Pirates and Mick Abel, making his major league debut today for the Phillies. Both of them pitched their butts off. Skeens goes the distance, essentially, for the Pirates in the losing effort. Mick Abel goes 6 very solid innings, gets the win, strikes out 9, ties a Phillies record for most strikeouts by a rookie pitcher in his debut. Phillies get just enough offense off of a Paul Skeens is a good pitcher. And I don't think, obviously, in the year 2 of Paul Skeens, even though the Pirates right now are a dumpster fire of an organization, and that would be, a trade piece right now, Paul Skeens would probably bring back, half of what you would need to rebuild your franchise. But I don't think the Pirates are there yet, because Paul Skeens is going to be the ace of that rotation for years to come. And all the Pirates got to hope to God that they can get better sooner than later. You're at year 2 of Paul Skeens. You got 5 more years before he will leave. Definitely leave via free agency, or you'll have to trade him in order to recomp some value of him. So, but I think it's going to be a preview of a marquee pitching matchup for years to come, and maybe also even Paul Skeens, Andrew Painter. That might be interesting too. So, kind of glimpse into the future today with the Phillies as they beat the Pirates 1-0, completing the sweep and getting ready to head out on the road on a 7-game road trip that'll take them to Colorado and Sacramento to battle the A's over the next 10 days. We also had some disturbing news coming out of Phillies camp this morning. It was broke, I think, last night. It started to kind of make its run around the internet last night, because I saw this last night, and obviously it wasn't verified, and I didn't want to start a rumor, but inside sources were reporting that Major League Baseball was close to suspending Jose Alvarado for 80 games for PED violations of this substance abuse policy in Major League Baseball. And that news became official this morning, and he was suspended for 80 games and made ineligible for the 2025 postseason, which now is going to open up a whole bunch of other questions about what do the Phillies are, what's next? The bullpen wasn't the strongest suit of this team, but now you're adding another issue to it, because now you're down an arm that you were using as a closer or in the back end of that rotation or back end of the bullpen. Is it a good thing that the Phillies don't rely on one closer, because now they have multiple pieces that they're going to have to use in order to fill that need? And what do you do to replace it? I mentioned this on the final. Alvarado's dead to me because you can't use him in the playoffs. So I don't really care at this point. The Phillies are going to have to try to go out and replace that contribution. And how do you do that? And what do you do? And I immediately go to the minor leagues as Mick Abel is making his major league debut, and the fruit of that tree is starting to drop. Finally, It's our time. We got some decent prospects that are starting to pay off at the major league level. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to have to turn around and potentially trade some of them, definitely have to trade some of them in order to replenish a need at the back end of our bullpen. And how selfish is that of Jose Alvarado to do and put the Phillies into that position? I got into a heated argument with somebody who thinks I was going too low with it. Jose Alvarado jeopardized the team. His actions were selfish. And he's going to go out for 80 games to include the playoffs. So we're going to get into that. We got our list to continue going over, our top 10 worst trades in Phillies history, according to MattyB. Number 7 tonight. We'll get through that. Our Of the Night segment and our card review. All the great things, and of course, our day in Philadelphia sports history. All the great things we do here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. And I want to remind everybody before we get started that tomorrow night at 8 p.m., that's right, 8 p.m. tomorrow night, the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn will return. The quintessential and Eagle pregame show entertainment returns to the It's a Wrap Sports Network for season number 6. Me and Kyle will talk some things. We're going to talk the draft. We're going to talk free agency. We're going to talk the schedule. We're going to get everybody ready for the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles season. And the only way me and Kyle Quinn can do it. Kyle's going to call me an idiot. I'm going to call him a homer, and we're just going to go round and round until somebody passes out, right? That's kind of how we do it. No, we're going to have some fun tomorrow. Season 6 on the network, or season 6 all time, year 2 on the network. So make sure you're here tomorrow night, 8 p.m. for the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, as we will talk free agency, the draft, and the schedule release. I'm interested to get Kyle's takes because I don't know. We haven't really kept in contact throughout the offseason, and I have no idea where he stands. I prefer that. I don't like knowing I don't like knowing his takes. I want to kind of, feel my way through it. So I get to get an opportunity to talk to Kyle tomorrow and ask him how his camping trip was. Apparently he's going camping somewhere outside the city of Philadelphia. First, he told me he was going to be going camping down by Market Street, right by the river. And I was like, "Whoa, what are you talking about?" I'm like, you better work on your Kensington lean if that's the case, because you're going to have to kind of navigate through a whole subset of people in order to survive the weekend. But then he admitted he was going upstate. So I imagine maybe the Poconos or somewhere up there, maybe even Bucks County, for God's sakes. But I'll find all that out tomorrow. So make sure you're here tomorrow at 8 to join me and Kyle for the Birds Blast. Steve checking in. Good to see you, Steve. Rainy week coming, man. Yeah, it sucks. But you know what? They're not going to be here. Phillies will be on the road. And we'll avoid the rain delays and the rain outs and the PBDs and all that. So that's good. But yeah, it sucks. It's really it's depressing, man. It's depressing going through this. I would, the winter where I was, Steve, I split time between Philadelphia and Central New York. And where I was in Central New York was a brutal winter this year. I mean, I don't know how many feet of snow it was at the end, but brutal. And then this spring has been brutal too. As an umpire, again, doing games between Philadelphia and Central New York, I've had 13 games canceled because of rain and field conditions and all that. So then that's, of course, that hits you in the pocket more than anything else. But I hate it, man. It's been brutal. Really good win and sweep. Michael Papernick, 100% agree with you. There is some conversation, though, swirling around the water cooler that the win over the Pirates and teams of that ilk were somewhat of a fugazi, right? That, and I brought this up this morning on the PM and the AM show, or I should say it, 2 homers and a flip-flopper. That's what I'm going to rename it to. I brought it up that unless we're facing the Pirates or the Rockies or the Marlins or teams like that in October, how much really can we assess these wins? How much really can we take from these wins, other than the fact that you got to win the games in order to get to the playoffs? And I realize that. But how much can you really gauge the team? And don't forget, it wasn't like they went off on the Pirates. I mean, they won the first game pretty handily. And then the other 2 games, I mean, it was a little bit of a struggle. So, we can look inside the numbers and get a little concerned. Of course, that's what I do. But how much can you assess the Phillies by beating up on the Pirates? How much can you assess the Phillies by beating up on the Rockies and the A's? Is it supposed? Are you expecting going undefeated and winning the next 13 games? Is that, or 10 games, whatever it is? Yeah, was it 3, 4, and 3? So over these next 10 games, are the Phillies supposed to go 10-0? I mean, they're off to a 3-0 start. But how do you assess beating up on teams like the Rockies, A's, and the Pirates? I mean, other than the fact that you need to win in order for the standings, but can you really gauge something from the team that way? Or is it really acceptable, but not acceptable if they would lose? Then it's really bad. So I get everyone's, it was a good series sweep and a good win. And watching Mick Abel pitch the way he did, really good. So I get all that. But how much really can you assess, though, with games like that? When I saw Carlton lower in the K's in his debut list, it made me roll my eyes and get unyoked. I told you when I looked on the schedule that the Phillies would sweep these awful teams like the Pirates, Rockies, and others. Well, so far so good, Barbara. You're right. And again, I go back to the question, how much can we really assess the World Series readiness of the Phillies based on beating up on the Pirates? And how much can you assess after beating up on the Rockies? And then, of course, subsequently, hopefully beating up on the A's. They come back off that road trip, and they got the Braves and they got the Brewers. And then I think they got the Blue Jays and then back to the Pirates or something like that. So it's not the world's hardest schedule coming up. And you got to win the games. So, I reserve my opinion, though, for later on in the season. I guess. I don't know. Oh, it's hard. Skeens dominated the Phillies. The Cassie ball was definitely an error, too. Yeah, it was definitely a pitching battle. I mean, and I mentioned this on the final. It had me kind of reminiscing of the games between Carlton and Ryan and good old baseball, where it was just about pitching and about hard throwing and about painting the corners and about, the ball dropping out. And it made me yearn for those days. And I miss those days as it is. And a game like today really kind of got me back there. And I'm not going to sit here and Paul Skeens is that in a bag of chips, and he pitched his ass off, and he deserved a dominating effort. I mean, he controlled the Phillies first time they ever faced them, and there was no doubt about that. And Mick Abel had to answer with a dominating performance of his own, and yet he did. So it was great baseball today. It was great pitching, and it was very reminiscent of my youth. Made me feel good, at least for a few hours. Then I snap back into reality. I wonder if they can appeal the postseason aspect of this. I think that's a standardized part of it. Now, the 80-game suspension, that's strike 2, correct? That's not strike 1. Right? I mean, isn't it like strike 1, it's like 2 weeks or something like that? And then strike 2? Or strike 1, 80, strike 2 is a season, strike 3 is your life? I'm so behind on what they do now for it. If anybody can chime in with that. But I believe the banishment for the postseason is standard part of the violating the policy. But don't forget Tatis went through it a couple of years ago, right? When he got suspended for 80 games because he was using a medicine after his motorcycle accident that apparently had PEDs in it, and he got suspended right after he got cleared to play. He got suspended for 80 games. It was like 2 years ago. Remember that? We're going to get into Alvarado. I definitely want to talk some things about Alvarado tonight. I do. I want to get bare bones with it. I think Dombrowski will use Abel in a trade to try and get a top-notch reliever. I wouldn't trade Abel, but I think it's expendable. And Michael, I brought that up on the final. And this situation, not only does this a huge a hole to fill in the bullpen. And again, I don't know if it's a positive or negative now. And maybe Rob Thompson's magical ways are starting to rub off. And now and I don't know if I'm starting to understand how he's doing things. And if I'm starting to understand what he's doing, then maybe I got to go get myself checked out. But The fact that we don't have a closer and the fact that we don't have defined bullpen roles, maybe it might be a blessing in disguise here, because we lose a big part of the bullpen, but yet we have other people who can fill in until a replacement is brought in. And we're going to actually, I'm going to throw some names out there at you, because it changes the entire approach to the trade deadline. I was all in on offense at the trade deadline. I honestly thought the Phillies had enough. I thought they had enough starting pitching, and I thought they had enough in the bullpen. I was just concerned about the way they were used in the bullpen, but I thought they had the people. But now they don't. Now we don't have the people in the bullpen, and that's obvious. So that changes our approach to the trade deadline drastically. And I don't know what that does to the team as their push to the World Series, goes on. And we're going to throw out some names, some potential back-end guys that could be available at the trade deadline. And maybe not, well, they might, they're all going to break the bank because they're all going to be trade deadline deals, and they're going to want prospects. And yes, and that was what I brought up too. There's always a sneaky feeling in the back of my mind about Dave Dombrowski eventually reverting back to his old ways and starting to drain the minor leagues, and kind of going back to his Boston Red Sox days. And now with this, there's no way we can avoid that. Some of these kids are gone. Now it's a matter of who and how high of a level is he going to go, and how high of prospect potential he's going to go with. And again, seeing Mick Abel do what he did today, watching down there in AAA firsthand a lot of stuff too that I've been seeing of how these kids are starting to kind of figure it out. AA, how they're pushing each other, and even down all the way down to the FCL Phillies, like we did our Down the Phillies farm segment today. There's some, catching depth now starting to sort of emerge at the lower end of the minor leagues. It's starting to replenish itself, and it's been so bad for so long. I don't want to go back again. I don't want to go back into another 20-year period where there's nothing in our minor league system. I don't want a repeat of what Ruben Amaro did to the Phillies system, trying to keep together a team that ended up only winning one World Series. I don't want that. And I'm not going to talk for you or speak for anybody out there, but that was rough. It was rough. And now we're coming out of that, and it would take Dombrowski literally one season to throw us right back in there. And I don't want that to happen. And I'm not saying Abel's, actually I am. I did say Abel's untouchable. I think Abel now goes into that untouchable group again. I think he's part of that. He's a front end projected starting talent. Those don't come along too often. And, Nola's already starting to experience some issues. Wheeler's churning along, but Nola's starting to have some problems. At some point, maybe sooner than later, either Painter or Abel is going to have to kind of slide in for Nola, maybe at some point. What I mean by that is into the rotation, not as a number 2 or 3, but into the rotation as a number 5 at least. So I don't know, man. I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready to mortgage the future long term for Jose Alvarado's stupidity. Or is MLB getting back at us for letting JC Romano pitch in the 2021? He ended up going to prison, didn't he? Like the year later? Didn't he get arrested in Venezuela and never heard from again? What's up, Joe? Joe, how you doing? Yes, you are, Ricky. Ricky is always watching. Barbara says, I've been watching O'Hoppe against the Dodgers. Boy, he can hit. Yeah, I know he can. Are you trying, Barbara? Am I too even keel right now? You gotta, start the flames flying. No, O'Hoppe's good, man. And base, our 10 worst trades in Phillies history, as per me. I don't know. Maybe a Logan O'Hoppe trade might be on that list somewhere. It might be too early to put that on there, but again, this is according to me, so I could do what I want with it. But I don't know. We'll see. Was busy. I worked all weekend. Joe, how was yours? I got a few good questions for you guys tomorrow. Cannot wait. Tomorrow night at 8:00 on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. The Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn returns for season 6. And make sure you're there. I can mock up a trade for the bullpen. We're going to get to that. But before we get to that, Joe, let's get to our day in Philadelphia sports history. So let's strap in, strap on, strap up. Keep your head, hands, and feet inside the car at all times. And here we go. Your day in Philadelphia sports history. All the way back to the year 1912. Now, before I continue on, I want to preface out that I was not here firsthand. I was not part of this. I was not at Connie Mack Stadium. I did not bear witness to this. This is what I heard. It's been what's reported. But in 1912, 8 lucky Philadelphia Philly fans that came out to watch the Philadelphia A's battle the Detroit Tigers got an opportunity to stand in. This is no joke. Got an opportunity to stand in for the Detroit Tigers. That's right. Connie Mack went out into the field prior to the game and picked 8 lucky fans out of the stands and enlisted them to be members of the Detroit Tigers for the afternoon. Apparently, the Tigers were in protest of Ty Cobb being suspended from baseball. Apparently, a couple days earlier, ain't making this up either, Ty Cobb got into a heated argument with a fan that resulted in Ty Cobb going into the stands and nearly beating the fan to death in the stands. And he got suspended for the remainder of the 1912 MLB season. So on this day, if you were in attendance down there at, what's the Baker Bowl? What did they call it before it was Connie Mack? Doesn't say. If you were at this game between the Philadelphia Athletics and the Detroit Tigers on this, I don't know if it was a Sunday, but on this day in 1912, you could have been a Tiger for the day, as the Tigers refused to play. I guess all but one did. Refused to play in protest to Ty Cobb's suspension after going into the stands and nearly beating a fan to death in the stands for heckling him. Can't make that stuff up, man. Now, can you imagine if that happened today in 2025? Can you imagine? We act like in this world that we're the first ones to do outrageous stuff. I have never seen anything like that before, but can you imagine a player, Bryce Harper, let's just use Bryce Harper, for going up into the stands and beating somebody half to death. And then the next day, Rob Thompson walking out to Citizen Bank Field going, you, and you, come on down. You know, I need you to play for the Phillies today because our team is protesting Bryce Harper's suspension because he nearly beat a fan half to death. I mean, we act like we're the first ones to do craziness. I ain't never heard anything like that. Ty Cobb, who of course had a reputation of being a douchebag of the 2nd degree or the 10th degree, nearly beat a fan to death on this day back in 1912. Or actually, not on this day, a couple of days earlier. But on this day, the Detroit Tigers needed some help in order to field a team. And if you were one of the lucky fans down there in attendance at the A's Tigers game in 1912, you could have been a Tiger. So there you go. Your day in Philadelphia sports history. Man. And, you know, again, I wasn't there. I would have loved to have been there for that. That would have been fun. Barbara says, Paul Skeens definitely has to get another team. His talent is wasted on the Pirates. And you know what, Barbara? We've talked about this on the program. So I failed to do the complete research, and I will do it tonight. But a couple weeks ago at PNC Park, the Pirates debuted a display. And guess what was there? That Paul Skeens baseball card that sold for $1.11 million at auction earlier this spring. It was the same card the Pirates had put a bounty on. To anybody who would turn it in, they would give them 30 years season tickets, hanging out with Paul Skeens and his hottie patati girlfriend. And, up there in the suite and a whole bunch of Paul Skeens swag. Well, the little kid that found it ended up auctioning the card off, got $1.11 million, but somehow that card has ended up in the possession of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So, and I need to close the gap on that. I need to find out how it got there, but it's there at PNC Park. They made its own little display for it. Debuted it a few weeks ago. So check that stuff out. Again, you can't make this stuff up either. So the card ended up going back to the Pirates in the long run. Martian Kepler for Cayley Jansen. Yeah, Jansen's. So here's the thing, and we are going to run some numbers now. Jansen, you mentioned an interesting name. Now Jansen plays for what is he? He plays for the Angels, right? Let's run that down real quick. Why can't I find Anaheim Angels on here? Are they the California Angels? Okay, this is insane. There they are. They're the LA Angels. Yeah, Kenley Jansen plays for the Angels. Comes with an AAV of $10 million. Now, of course, that would be a trade deadline deal. He's a UFA at the end of the year. And Dombrowski has some history trading with the Angels and some history in getting fleeced by the Angels. So I would not be going Kepler. No. Kepler, no. No, I'm not ready to trade Kepler. No. Marsh, yeah. See, and you also got to look at it from the Angels' point of view. They're not going to take Brandon Marsh back. They're the ones that got rid of him in the first place. And they're not going to take Max Kepler on the wrong side of his career back when the Angels are about to hit a rebuild. And they're very close to doing that, actually. So it's going to be prospect heavy. But Cayley Jansen is a player that I would be very interested in acquiring, because he would come. It would cost you some prospects, but I don't think it would cost you an Aiden Miller or a Mick Abel. I don't think it would. They might be able to get away with it from a Gene Cabrera standpoint, maybe a Raconis Jr. standpoint. They might be able to pull off a deal for Jansen with a player like that. But that's what I fear, though. I fear that these types of trades are going to have to be made in order for the Phillies to recomp what Alvarado has done to them. But I like where your mind is, Joe. I definitely have looked at Cayley Jansen as well as a trade target. Go Phillies! I hear you, brother. Today was almost a sure loss, so I am more than satisfied with today, but only today. Yeah, I felt the same way going into the game, Steve. Getting ready to go out there on a major road trip, getaway day. Mick Abel, we didn't really know what we were going to get from him. Going up against Paul Skeens, we know Phillies have never faced him before. It's not the Pirates' offense that was the problem. It was the Phillies' ability to hit Skeens, which they couldn't. But they could do it a little bit more than the Pirates could hit Mick Abel. So you're right. Today had a lot of good feelings about it, and it sets you down the road in the right path. I 100% agree with that. The Phillies rock, absolutely, Ricky. Mike, how you doing? Yeah, he looked great. He looked very good. I think the trade deadline, the Phillies should look at upgrade their backup catcher, as Marchand isn't cutting it in my eyes. Okay, Michael, I agree. But with the situation today and losing Alvarado essentially for the entire season, because if the guy can't pitch in the postseason, then you might as well be suspended all year. I have no need for you. Does it change the priority of your trade deadline situation? I honestly was okay with the pitching situation, even the bullpen. I'm not gonna say I was okay with the bullpen, but it wasn't my priority was more offense. But now it's changed, because now we got to find another arm back there. We definitely got to find another arm in that bullpen. Backup catcher, unfortunately, is not a priority. It's way down the list. And if it comes down to Rafael Marchand, and that's why we didn't win a World Series, I don't know how to take that. But it is what the catcher situation is what it is since we got rid of Logan O'Hoppe. So is what it is. Right now, it's got to be the bullpen. The bullpen has got to be the number one priority for Dave Dombrowski to fix. And he's not. I don't think the fix is coming from within. I don't think you can find someone down in Lehigh Valley or Reading to pluck in the back end of the bullpen. And especially when you're also dealing with Orion Kerkering, who's teeter-tottering on and off the track. You may have to replace 2 arms out there. So, yes, the bullpen has become a primary focus of mine in terms of fixing. And today's news with Alvarado sure as hell doesn't help things out. Kane. The Brewers are, especially the Blue Jays, are zeros too. Yes, and we're going to get into some names. Steve Carlton versus John Candelaria. I'll give you one better. Steve Carlton versus Rick Rhoden. Rick Rhoden there, Nooms. How's that? Not John Candelaria, Rick Rhoden. Rick Rhoden. And then we can go Drebeck too. Rick Russell. Who else? But Rick Rhoden and Steve Carlton. Only thing missing was the pillbox hats. Good Phillies win. Yeah, it was, Ricky. That's strike 2 for so that's strike 2. So the next one's a lifetime ban, right? So what? Strike 1's a month. So that's strike 2. Thank you, Joe Howe, for that. Strike 2 for Alvarado. So how does that make you feel? So he didn't learn his lesson the first time. What was the first time? Trying to grow his hair? I mean, how much? I mean, the excuse was he was taking weight loss medicine that obviously had a banned substance in it. What was the excuse the first time? Interesting. So Robbie had FaceTime with Abel a couple of days ago and told Abel that him pitching on Sunday was just a one and done. I've heard that, and you said that earlier too, Michael. I hope that's not true. And does today's news with Jose Alvarado, does that change things? How can that be true? How can he do that? I can see if he goes out there and gives up 14 runs and doesn't escape the second inning. But you went out there and could have probably gone the distance today and probably struck out about 12 or 13 batters. And you're going to tell the kid, one and done? Sorry? Rob Thompson's going to become Mr. Mr. Accountability? I mean, really? Someone needs to test Rob Thompson. I hope that's not true. I hope he's on that plane tonight. I hope he's flying out to Denver. I hope he's sitting in the back of the plane getting tips from Zach Wheeler right now, asking for an extra bag of peanuts to go along with his Coke on that plane. That's what I hope's happening right now. 80 season life, I believe. Well, Joe Hale's saying it's Alvarado's second offense, so that would mean 80 is number 2. But that doesn't make any sense. Yours makes more sense. I'll research it. Or if anybody else wants to research it, come up with some answers. There's no appeal to disqualify from postseason. It's a rule. Yeah, it's part of the CBA. It's part of the anti-doping policy. And it really puts the Phillies in a bad spot. Imundo for Jojo Romero. Make it happen. Dude, that's straight up. All right. What Steve said, or what everyone's asking about, what to do about nothing here. What are some of the names that are floating around out there for the Phillies to potentially go target for the back end of the bullpen? First things first, we got to look at the teams that are probably not going to be part of anything that's happening in the postseason. And I'm going to start off with some teams and, some names that are not what you would call breaking the meter here, but we got to be realistic here because I don't want to have to give away Aiden Miller for a rental player. And I'm going to go off with the first one that's obviously on everyone's mind. And that's, of course, the Cubs closer, Ryan Presley. Comes with a $15 million AAV. Obviously going to be a free agent at the end of the year. The Cubs are going to be in this thing, so I don't know if Presley is even going to be part of any kind of trade package because I don't think the Cubs are going to be sellers. They're going to be buyers, and that's a shame because if there was a pitcher out there, even though he's on a expiring contract, there's a pitcher that I would entertain moving off of one of the untouchable prospects that I've mentioned. It would be him. I would definitely think about it. I would much prefer him to have another year attached to his contract. But I would think about it. The other pitcher, of course, is the Cardinals closer, Ryan Helsley. Comes with an $8 million AAV. Again, I don't know. I think the Cardinals are going to be in the in this thing, so I don't think they're going to be listening. But Kenley Jansen from the Angels, he's one to consider. Here are two names that are going to strike a little bit of, and please hear me out. It might sound ridiculous, but Sir Anthony Dominguez and Greg Soto are both free agents at the end of the year. And with the Baltimore Orioles ship sinking faster than the Titanic, is there a possibility you take a flyer on bringing back Sir Anthony or Greg Soto or both of them for, I don't know, something minor? Because I think you could get them for like Class C prospects. And they're both on expiring deals. Those were names that kind of jumped out at me a little bit and kind of intrigued me. I don't know if I would be totally against that. Some other names that are floating around out there that are interesting. Craig Kimbrell, who I believe just got sent down to AAA. I don't know if he's really in the mix, but he's a free agent at the end of the year, currently with the Braves. Jake Dinkman with the Braves as well. Genesis Cabrera with the Mets, but again, the Mets are going to be in this thing, so they're not going to sell. C.J. Edwards, he's a Drew Pomeranz, but again with the Cubs. Shelby Miller with the Diamondbacks. Tyler Alexander, the Brewers. Sean Armstrong with the Rangers. Tim Mazea and Ryan Brukowski of the Pirates. Interesting names as well. Miguel Castro with the White Sox. Luis Garcia, again with the Dodgers. Mike Clevinger, who's been in the bullpen role with the White Sox for a couple of years now. He's also a free agent at the end of the year. I would definitely take a look at Mike Clevinger in a bullpen role with this team going down the stretch. I don't know what the White Sox would want. They're obviously rebuilding. They're probably going to want a lot. But you got to kick the tires on these types of players. Scott Alexander out there in Colorado. He's another player that you might be interested in taking a look at. Juan Arena, with the Blue Jays. Hobie Milner out there in Texas. Derek Law with the Nationals. Again, Sir Anthony. Eric Swanson with the Blue Jays. So there's some names that are kind of floating around. There's obviously the two big ones, the two big names that out there with Chicago and St. Louis. But there's some names, and as I was again researching this, what are the possibilities that Sir Anthony or Greg Soto return to fill the need in the back end of the bullpen? I mean, I think that's very interesting, and I wouldn't be against it. Not at all. I would not be against taking a look at both those players. I was shocked Robbie let Abel pitch 6 innings. I was shocked that he didn't let him pitch the rest of the game. I honestly don't know why they pulled him out, especially if it's a one and done. If it's a one and done, like Rob said, like that's it. You're going back to Lehigh. The hell with it, man. Keep him out there. Let him go back to Lehigh with a memory. Set the Phillies single season or franchise record in MLB, rookie debut, strikeouts, a complete game, first win. Let him go back to Lehigh Valley and smiling, man. Why pull him out at 6? Chapman, 19 games, 3-2, 1-year deal with Boston and left. Yeah. But Boston, again, is Boston going to be part of this at the end? You got to take that into consideration. You really do. Look at the Orioles. They didn't win their window. Now it's over for them. Yes, now you can pick the carcass and bring in some, bring me back some Sir Anthony or some Greg Soto. I told you they would make up some phony injury from Nola and sit him out. Yeah, the Phantom right. There was never anything. I guess that's the best kind of injury, that or like a pulled muscle and pulled ab muscle, because you don't ever want to make up something wrong with his elbow or his shoulder or his arm. So obviously they were going to make up something lower body, and that's a good one. That's a real good one. That's Orgith. Yeah, I got him mixed up. My man MattyB. What's going on? 100% legit story I heard from my great grandfather. See. I told you, Well, at least you're not saying that, I'm reporting from firsthand information about the day in Philadelphia sports history. For those of you that did not hear this, tonight's day in Philadelphia sports history centered around the Philadelphia A's and the Detroit Tigers. That on this day, 8 lucky fans who were in attendance at this game in 1912 had the opportunity to play the role of 8 individual players from the Tigers, because the Tigers were protesting MLB's decision to suspend Ty Cobb for a few days earlier for going up into the stands and beating a fan near death. So Ty Cobb was suspended for the rest of the season. And in protest, the Tigers would not take the field against the A's. So Connie Mack went up into the stands, or went out into the field, and enlisted 8 lucky fans to play the Detroit Tigers on this day back in 1912. And yes, as Steve is saying, it's 100% legit. He heard it from his great-grandfather. And I heard it from reliable sources. But it's interesting, and I want everyone to understand I was not there personally to watch this happen. Ty Domi can believe. Yeah. But there you go, I guess. And the caveat to that story for me was, we like to think in this day and age that we're the only ones capable of crazy behavior like that. Can you imagine? Now, the Ty Domi situation is interesting. The one where he climbed out of the penalty box, or actually the fan climbed into the penalty box. But in this story, or in this report, I shouldn't say story, he beat him near death. Like, Ty Cobb just wailed on him up there in the stands. Ty Domi, as I recall, got what did he get? Maybe up punch him before his entire team came flooding into the penalty box. So, I mean, craziness, man. The Phillies need a left-hander reliever because Alvarado, out of all the Phillies left, is and again, that limits your pool down even further. Strike 1 is 25 games, so this is strike 2. According to AI, we have the best bullpen. Or according to Al. Is it AI or Al? We have the best bullpen. This is probably before the news broke. And I believe the Phillies bullpen, what they have, like a ERA around 5 something, north of 5 going into today's game. And a lot of that can be contributed to some of the early season problems some of the pitchers have had. They've been pitching a lot better lately, but there is still some concerns. And to me, those concerns have always been about how the bullpen was incorporated. I thought we had the pitchers out there, but I was getting a little concerned about a Ryan Kirkering. And I'm also always concerned about a bullpen with no roles. Now, with this information, with losing a back end guy for the rest of the season, that puts our bullpen in peril. We need to make a move. And some of the names that I am kind of floating around out there, as Michael Papernick mentions it, is it important to go get a left-hander? I mean, there's 2 schools of thought there. It's the analytic side of thought, and it's the feel of baseball side. I don't know which to believe anymore. I used to be a feel guy. I used to also incorporate the lefty versus righty approach of my starting batting lineup. But over the last 10 or 15 years, I've said to hell with that, and it's all about feel. So I don't know if it's, having a left-hander, another left-hander out there because you don't have too many more left-handed options. Is it really that much of is it a deal breaker? I don't know what you do there. Or are the Phillies in a position to really be that picky? The Pirates had players back in the 70s and 80s with great nicknames like Scrap Iron Phil Garner and Snake Dave Parker and Pops Willie Stargell. Yeah, they did. I was wrong. It was Alvarado's first. Okay. Second is for the year. Third is a lifetime ban. So this is his first offense. So, man, 80 games is your first offense? Okay, so first offense and no goddamn postseason. Where was the phantom injury for Bohm? Just a good question. Maybe they didn't feel like Otto Kemp was ready. Phillies bullpen was a 5, north of 5 going into today's game. Yeah. Mayor of Delco, Al Zafiri. So coming off the top rope against Al, man. It's okay. Al can be the way he is. Listen, it's not nice. It's not nice to attack the homers. It's not. I mean, let them be them. You know, you want to be respected. I want to be respected for my opinion. You have to listen to their side too. But boy, he's a homer, man. Woo! Man, cannot swing a dead cat anywhere in the It's a Wrap Sports Network without hitting a homer. I mean, you really can't. It's actually somewhat amazing. So, Jose Alvarado. Now let's get into the more philosophical conversation about what happened today. Jose Alvarado suspended for 80 games and the postseason because of a PD anti-doping violation of the collective bargaining agreement between Major League Baseball and the owners. Now, the excuse is that he was taking a weight loss medicine that had a banned substance in it. I want to know from the assembled people that are watching right now, am I coming down too hard on Jose Alvarado for getting caught cheating? And do you believe, first and foremost, do you believe Jose Alvarado did not know what he was putting into his body? And is that line of defense hooey for you? Because I don't know about you. If I'm in a job that requires me to take, quarterly, bi-weekly, daily, whatever it is, your analysis in order to test for banned substances, I want to know exactly what those banned substances are. And I want to have every single thing that I purchase off of the shelves of any kind of GNC superstore inspected by my team's physicians to ensure that there's nothing in this product that will get me put on the ban list or get me caught up. So do you believe that Jose Alvarado did not know that what he was taking was on the ban list? And how does that make you feel about this whole situation? Do you feel that Jose Alvarado was tripped up, that he made a mistake, that it was a one and done thing? Or do you think he was trying to cheat his way through and got caught? And how does that make you feel about Jose Alvarado as a man? Did he fail the Phillies? Has he failed his teammates? And how important is that to you? I maintain it's very important to me. I come from a very team-oriented background, very much so about the team. And when you don't do your job, it affects not only you, but it affects the entire thing. And this is big for the Phillies right now. This is a problem that the Phillies didn't need to deal with at this particular moment in time. And how does that make you feel about Jose Alvarado? And I know publicly what they're going to say, but privately, how do you think it's being taken? So I want to hear about that. I want to know what you guys think about that. I feel for the game guy, and the Phillies need another left-handed reliever. Just think if Nola was to get traded after the season and Suarez walks in free agency, the Phillies rotation would be stronger with Wheeler, Zardo, Sanchez, Painter, and Abel. It would be stronger, kind of. I mean, it would be sort of uncertain, but we definitely would be cheaper. I mean, we'd have some money. I believe Alvarado knew what he was doing. Joe, I agree. I mean, I don't know about you out there. I honestly don't. But if I'm working in a profession that pays me millions and millions of dollars, and then everything I do in that profession is pretty much under a microscope, and obviously there's a list of things that I can't put in my body, I'm going to take I would imagine that the Phillies would take every caution into ensuring that I am taking things that are not banned. Right? I mean, am I wrong to say that? Or am I looking through this in the wrong type of moral compass? Or is this just one of those things where, you know what? Hey, he tried, didn't work out. No harm, no foul, we move on. And what about that little kid that a couple weeks ago was up there in the stands emulating what Jose Alvarado was doing because he looked up to him? I mean, how's that kid feel tonight? Again, this has so many more ramifications other than just what Jose Alvarado, did for the Phillies. Because players are role models, like it or not. And this is bad. This is bad. This is big and this is bad. So, can the Phillies move Ranger to the bullpen for now so Abel can stay in the rotation? I mean, they could do whatever they want. They could move Ranger to the bullpen, but they're not going to. Don't forget, Joe. And the one thing about Mick Abel is the same thing about Andrew Painter, the same thing about Justin Crawford, the same thing about all of them. It's about service time. If they could stash Abel away for another year of service time and then have his contract last another year longer, they're more apt to do that instead of all these like musical chairs, even though it might make sense. But if they're able to stash him away back in the minors for another year and save another year on his contract, they're going to do that. So I understand trying to make Mick Abel fit in this rotation might be what a lot of people want. It's not going to happen. I 100% agree. Mick Abel's going back to AAA. I'm not sitting here telling you that he's not. I don't think he should go back right now. I think another start definitely deserves another start out there in Sacramento. Why not? You know? But yeah, he's going to eventually have to go back. I mean, they're not going to do all this shell game nonsense for a guy that's got 7 years on a service deal that doesn't start until he hits a certain amount of time on the first year. And if they can kind of keep that rolled over to 2026, they're going to do that. That's just good business. These MLB players all know what they're doing and taking. I agree, Michael. I agree. And again, what does that make you feel? How does that make you feel about Jose Alvarado? Doesn't Charles Barkley have a commercial saying he's not a role model? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Phillies need hitters to produce. Bryce Harper is failing. Oh no, Barbara, don't say that. Please, Barbara, let's not go back down there. I don't want to reinvigorate them idiots. The Bryce Harper clan. I don't want to get into that again. Bryce Harper had a couple good games against a really bad baseball team, and he had one good game against the Cardinals, and apparently he's turned a corner. And because he had his 1,000th RBI, well, I do have to. I'm sorry, I gotta do this, and it really upsets me to do this. I don't want to do this, but I have to. So, you guys know that this program is proudly sponsored by the good folks over at Big Al's Excuse Emporium, right? And we have a partnership over there, and I'm glad that the network can partner up with these guys. And today, courtesy of Big Al's Excuse Emporium, courtesy of the PNM and the AM program, I heard some of the more, not necessarily an excuse. This doesn't really go down. So this item will not be found in any of the main aisles at Big Al's Excuse Emporium. This will be found back there in the clearance bins, or the impulse purchase items up by the register. You could probably find this. But it was the Bryce Harper 1,000th RBI, seeing eye single, bloop single over the infield. That's okay. That shows Bryce Harper's all about the team because it wasn't a grandiose double, triple, grand slam, home run, whatever the case may be. But that says that Bryce Harper is working because his 1,000th RBI was a bloop single. Again, this is not something you're going to find in the main aisles of Big Al's Excuse Emporium. It's not. It's going to be up there by the impulse items up by the cash register or in the back in the clearance aisle. But it's going to be there. You just got to look for it. And I thought I chuckled to myself when I heard that this morning. That it's a sign that Bryce Harper is doing well because he was okay with the fact that he got a CNI single for his 1,000th RBI. So again, go pay the good folks at Big Al's Excuse Emporium a visit today. Bring the kids. They got stuff for everybody there. And when you go there and you mention my name, MattyB, you get 10% off of your first purchase and 30% off of a year's membership. Just mention MattyB at Big Al's Excuse Emporium, serving the greater Delaware Valley since the summer of 2024. But again, I had to go there. It's not one of my greatest. It's not one of our best Big Al's Excuse Emporium promos, but it's a good one. But yeah, Bryce Harper is doing good because he got his 1,000th RBI over a bloop single. Ricky Deal, what's your thoughts on the Phillies bullpen? Yeah, Ricky, what is your deal? Shout out to Al in the Emporium. Yes. A cool fact about the Phillies game yesterday, Kyle Schwarber family was sitting in front of me. Really? Joe, just getting pictures? Come on, man. You got to share that stuff. You can't keep that stuff to yourself. Like who? His wife, his mom, his dad, his brother, his next door neighbor? Who, Joe? Come on. So Jose Alvarado gets suspended and 80 games, first offense. Apparently, we've run all that down, and he'll be ineligible for the postseason. And we've mentioned a few names that could be entertaining for the Phillies to potentially move on from or move on to. Caley Jansen, who's actually a player I wanted to bring in last year and wanted to bring in during the offseason. Him and Junis, I wanted. And Junis actually is a free agent as well. He could be potentially fit, but Jansen was a player I thought the Phillies should have given an opportunity with in the offseason, and they passed on. But I think Caley Jansen with Rob Dombrowski. See, now I'm combining them. Rob Dombrowski with Dave Dombrowski's history with the Angels. I think we can make that trade happen. Now, the question is, and this is what scares me about doing any business with the Angels, is they've now won about 3 straight trades against us. Be honest with you. They won 3 of them. They've won the Logan O'Hoppe, Brandon Marsh deal. I'm even going to give them the Syndergaard and friggin' Moniak deal. I'm going to give that to the Angels too. They also won the Estevez for Algieri and the other minor league pitcher we sent over there. So they've won the last 3 trades. Every trade that we've tried to happen with the Angels and Dombrowski, the Angels have won. So that scares me. It scares the hell out of me. But Caley Jansen is a name that would fit well in this back end of this bullpen and give us what we need in the stretch run, because we're going to need it. So I don't know, some names. And of course, the big names, in what you got Helsley in Chicago, you got Presley in Chicago and Helsley in St. Louis. They're the prime targets, but I don't think they're moving because of the status of those 2 teams come the pennant race. But there are also names that could be moved. But Caley Jansen is the name I'm looking at, as well as potentially Sir Anthony Dominguez. Again, so I'm looking for someone that's not going to break the friggin' bank. I don't want to give up Aiden Miller to save Jose Alvarado's friggin' reputation. I really don't. And he's putting us in a bad spot, man. He really has. Be careful trading. I know. His wife, his dad. Awesome, Joe. Very cool, man. Did you tell him MattyB said hi? If Jansen comes to Philly, what's Jansen role? He's got to. Oh, no. See, what are we talking about, Mike? I'm not saying that Caley Jansen is going to come here and we're going to change the whole philosophy. No, he's going to be a member of the back end of the bullpen. He's going to assume that role of one night 7th inning, one night 8th inning, one night. Listen, Mike, this is not going to change Rob Thompson. And again, that's another side of this we haven't even discussed. Does Jordan Romano get the job as closer? Is he now the closer? The come hell or high water closer of this team, regardless of what the situation is. Is he the only guy that's going to close? Does Rob Thompson navigate away from the bullpen by committee, especially for the back end, because of this situation? Or is it business as usual? Now we're gonna cycle Romano, Kerkering, who I'm telling you, Kirk, something's wrong there. Something's not right with Kerkering. Are we going to circulate Romano, Kerkering, and I guess it would be Strom would be the next one? Are we going to circulate them 3 into the closer role? Or does Rob Thompson have no choice now to, at least when it comes to a closer, say Jordan Romano is my closer? And that's a good point. You bring up a good point without bringing it up, Michael Papernick. Does this change Rob Thompson? And if we do acquire Caley Jansen or another back-end guy, do we go right back to the status quo of bullpen with no roles? I mean, this has got a domino effect, and that's because Jose Alvarado was selfish. Well, I agree, 100%. Orion was never that good. I thought he could. Barbara, I still have faith in him. I do. I have faith in Orion Kerkering. I just don't think this is the system for him. Kerkering needs a role. He does. He needs a team with a role. I'm sorry. A roll with some butter. And you know, that's what he needs. He needs that. He needs that structure, man. He needs that structure. Who's starting this week for the Phillies? Well, I think you got, what is it? Sanchez on Monday. It's Sanchez, Luzardo. It's everybody but I know the Stars all the way up through Friday. I don't know who's going Saturday, but you can look; they're up there. I've seen them. Tomorrow's Sanchez. They have all the starters listed up through Saturday. Saturday they have not covered Saturday. Saturday would be Abel's spot if they're going to pitch him again. Kerkering is screwed up as he is in the 8th or 9th inning guy, not the 6th. Again, I think we messed Kerkering up. Or when I say we, I mean the Phillies. All right. So we spent almost over an hour yammering on about Jose Alvarado and about Ty Cobb beating up fans. Let's go back to my list. So we've been doing this thing on the show over the last couple weeks, or since last week actually. MattyB's top 10 worst trades in Phillies history. Yes, worst trades for myriads of reasons. We started at 10. We're working our way up to 1. Tonight we're going to go with number 7. I'm going to remind everybody out there what are the trades we've talked about up to this point and why I thought they were so bad. And we're going to continue this thing moving. And it just seems to be somewhat coincidence that as we get kind of into these trades and some of the reasons that I think they're bad are starting to kind of relate a little bit to what the Phillies are dealing with right now when it comes to our minor league system and finally growing some prospects, because some of these trades are literally the beginning of the futility of this system that have lasted for almost 20 years. And it's actually funny to be able to walk the dog all the way back and say, oh my God, these are the trades that caused all this. And that today with Mick Abel pitching was just the first time in a long time that you could look at a pitcher and say, Jesus Christ, we got something here. And it came from our system. So let's remind the folks back home what we've done so far. My number 10 worst trade of all time was the Freddie Garcia deal with the White Sox back in 06 that sent that sent Gavin Floyd and Gio Gonzalez to Chicago for Freddie Garcia. My number 9 worst trade obviously was the Hunter Pence trade coming here. I did not like that trade because I thought it started a trend of blowing up the minor league system, trying to stay on top. And we didn't get enough. Number 8 was the Ken Giles trade. Ken Giles going to the Houston Astros in return for Mark Appel, Vince Velasquez, Brett Oberschulzer, Tom Eiselman, and Harold Arazas. Again, a trend of not being able to get anything in return for a quality established closer in Ken Giles, who was, yes, a luxury item for us, but not for many other teams. And that leads me to number 7. And number 7 is, again, a trade that's kind of in the vein of trying to stay on top. And then when the top was when we weren't staying on top anymore, the timing of getting rid of some of these players was all off. And my number 7 worst trade in Phillies history, Shane Victorino getting traded to the Dodgers. Back in 12, the Phillies got Josh Lindblom, Ethan Martin, a player to be named later that became Stefan Jaron, and the Dodgers got Shane Victorino. We got absolutely nothing in return for a player that 1 year later, in 2013, would be a major contributor to the Boston Red Sox winning a World Series. So in a lot of these cases, the Phillies waited too long to trade some of these guys, a la Rollins and a la Utley. But in Shane Victorino's case, they traded him too soon for nothing, absolutely nothing in return. I think the only player on this list to actually even get somewhat in the major leagues, I believe it says down there that Ethan Martin made 8 career starts, and that's it. That's it. And that's what we got for a guy that went on from LA in 12, joined the Boston Red Sox in 13, and was a prime contributor in them winning a World Series in 2013. Shane Victorino, you could have kept him around on the cheap at least for 3 more years and then did what you had to do with them. But this was another example of how the end of that last era was completely mismanaged by Phillies management. You waited too long on most of them, and in Shane Victorino's case, you waited too soon. You got rid of him too soon. So there's my number 7 worst trade in Phillies history. Shane Victorino going to the LA Dodgers for a la nada, and then going on to help win the Red Sox the World Series a year later. It just doesn't get any much. I mean, that's the bottom line of terrible trades. If I still have that really old one, but you haven't mentioned. I know, I'm getting there. Like 7 more to go. Rollins and Utley are also dumped on the Dodgers. Yep, and I'm not going to give away any more. I don't think neither one of those on the list, but there you go. All right, so we've gone through that. Let's get to our other night segment here on the program tonight as we're running late, and let's continue on. Yep, the other night segment tonight, we're going to head back to the NHL draft. We are about a month, 6 weeks or so away from the 2025 NHL draft. Flyers, of course, sitting pretty with the 6th overall pick, 7 draft picks in the first 2 rounds, total of 12 for the entire draft. And we've been talking to some players. We've already gone through the 6 players who, or not 6 players. We talked about some of the top end talent. I think we've already gone through all of them. We're talking now bottom end first round guys, potentially maybe upper mid second round guys, but players that could be in play for the Flyers with the draft capital that the team currently has. And obviously, a lot of these names are sounding very, very familiar to me now. And now a lot of these names could look nice in orange and black. And especially now with Rick Tocchet in the helm, starts feeling for real. So let's continue profiling the 2025 NHL draft and potential Flyer prospects with tonight's draft prospect, William Moore. He's the center for the United States National Team Developmental Program that dwells within the United States Hockey League, a 6'2" centerman, 182 pounds, put about 15 more pounds on, and we got something here. Plays the game to drive and challenge, going directly at players with his skill and skating. He plays a middle lane game, gets off the wall to the middle third, and has quick hands one-on-one, which allow him to play pucks under the sticks of defenders to get his spots puck. Now, William Moore is a prototypical middle end of second round selection, but he's one of those high risk or high reward, low risk type picks. You could get him probably in that point, maybe even have him potentially fall further, but I definitely think he's there mid second round. And in a team like the Flyers that's so devoid of talent in the center position, the more the merrier for me. I'm okay with Danny B, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on this if we take multiple centermen in this draft. Just because, we're only going to get one that hopefully contributes on day one, that doesn't mean we should only take one. There's a lot of centermen that need to be recouped in this organization. And William Moore is one of those types of players, a project player. He is not a day one guy. He's probably not a day three or a year 3 guy, more like a year 3 guy. So he's got the height, he's got the weight, kinda, and he's got the pedigree with the U.S. National Developmental Team, and he's going to be, I believe, he's a commit next year to the University of Denver. So he's got the college thing, Division I, perennial Frozen Four type program, all those great things that have that going for him, and we'll be able to see him on the international side as well. So William Moore is one of those players that attract me because of what he represents as a center. And I'm looking to completely recomp the entire position group for this team. And William Moore would be one of those players. So there you have it. My other night segment is the NHL draft prospect, William Moore of the U.S. National Developmental Program. Do you know the reason that Cole Hamels was in the Phillies dugout today in uniform? I think he was I believe it's his advisory role. Doesn't he kind of play for them? The Edmonton Oilers decided they were giving the Flyers a pick. No, they have up to the draft to make that decision. 1 hour before the draft, they have to make that decision. So there you are. There's the other night segment, and now let's move on to my favorite topic of the day. Yes, alrighty. It is MattyB's card review. The time of the night where we spend about 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes typically of the show, walking down memory lane with one of my very many vast sports cards. All sports are represented here. It's not just baseball; it's all of them. But tonight we're staying in baseball. We've been kind of stuck on the 87 tops set over the last few nights. It's because, well, one, it's one of the more highly represented cards in my collection, and two, it's got a lot of iconic older cards from older players that I grew up with, and I like to reminisce about them. And tonight is one such card of a player that really had his prime of his career long before I started watching baseball, but then settled into a back end of his career that spanned like almost 4 decades or 3 decades. No, yeah, 3 decades. 6, 7, 8, no, 4 decades. And this was a iconic player who had one of those great nicknames that we were talking about earlier. Whenever you're named after a bird, it's a great nickname. And I'm speaking, of course, of one of the more lights out relief pitchers of the day, Rich Goose Gossage. Now, this is his 87 tops when he was a member of the San Diego Padres. Of course, Gossage's heyday, or what he's most remembered for, was his time. What I mostly remember him is his time with the Yankees. Maybe somewhat of his time in Chicago. Oakland is another team that I remember him with, but the Yankees are he's synonymous. But this guy moved around. I mean, he played for the White Sox, Pirates, Yankees, Padres, Cubs, Giants, Yankees again, the Fukuoka Dini Hawks, the Texas Rangers, the Oakland A's again, and the Seattle Mariners, all from 1972 to 1994. So 70, 80, so 3 decades. His career spanned. I did not believe he went all the way into the 90s. But Gossage was in Major League Baseball all the way through the 1990s, a 9-time All-Star, a World Series champion in 78, the AL Rolaids Relief Man of the Year in 78, a 3-time AL saves leader. He's been honored in Yankee Stadium and Monument Park, and he is a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2008. Career win-loss record of 124-107, 3.01 ERA, over 1,500 strikeouts, and 310 career saves. Definitely an all-time relief pitcher, an all-time closer. Back when there were roles, folks, and this guy was one of the best. And his 87 tops card, again, you're not going out and you're not cornering the card market on a bunch of 87 Gossages. But this is one of those cards along the lines, like we talked about Yastrzemski's Turn Back the Clock card. We talked about Tom Seaver's 87 card when he was a Red Sox, the final card of his career. Now, this is not the final card of Gossage's career, but anytime you find a card with this name, with a Hall of Famer's name on it, it's worth something. Now, that might not be financial value. It might be more sentimental or nostalgic, but it is worth something. And Goose Gossage material is worth something. And financially, this card is, $3. But it's a classic card and a classic set of baseball cards. And it's tonight's card review, card of the night. And here it is in its physical form. The old school Padre logo, or actually not the old school Padre logo, but the second, I guess, old school Padre logo after they changed from the brown uniforms, or brown and gold, or the mustard uniforms, like they called them. They went to these uniforms, which were okay. I didn't mind this era Padre uniform. And I liked the Padre logo back of the late 80s. It was pretty cool. But here's Goose Gossage, 87 tops. And that's tonight's card of the night, or card review of the night. We're going to wrap it up. Cooper DeJean looks ready to be one of the NFL's most locked down cornerbacks next season. What are you basing that on, Star Wars? What are you basing that on? What do you mean he looks like it? I want to know what you mean by that. I'm not saying you're wrong. And tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, don't forget, the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn will be here, and we'll be talking about. I'm sure we'll mention Cooper DeJean, but what do you mean? Because I maintain this, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Because what we saw in his rookie season was definitely an indication that he was on his way to being a perennial Hall of Famer after one season. Oh, yeah. But there could possibly also be something as well as this. Perhaps Now that the defensive secondary down major contributors, what we lost out of there? We lost three big-time contributors. CJ, BJ, GJ, lost Darius Slay, and you lost Isaiah Rodgers, who, yes, was a contributor. Now you've lost them, and you've replaced them with a couple of Class B-type free agents, Dory Jackson and company. You've drafted some help. You have some drafted help that has not been able to step up and fulfill the role on the team up to this point, but apparently they are this year out of nowhere. Is it perhaps a chance that Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell were products of the system and players they played around more than their own ability at this particular moment in time? Not to say that they cannot grow into being lockdown defenders, but is there any concern with that? Is there any concern that now this year, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are going to be the focal point that offenses are going to attack? They're going to be the focal point of what offensive coordinators scheme against. Is there any concern that they might take a step backwards or take a step down based on that newfound role? And I know we're not talking about that. And you're not talking about that with any of the players on this team. You're not mentioning that about any of the defensive line situation. You're not mentioning that with the running back situation, the tight end situation. We're not talking about any of that. We're just assuming that everything's going to be seamless from last year, even though we've had a significant amount of loss or change on this football team. So you might be right, Star Wars, but you also might be wrong. Are you guys doing a live for the Flyers picks for the not for listen, I think what we're going to do, and when I say we, I mean me, because I don't think anybody else is going to sit with me for this, but first round, definitely, maybe second round, I don't know. Maybe first and second round. I'll see. Definitely probably first round. Anything after that, I'm still kind of figuring out. But yeah, first round, I would say yes. Abel and Painter need to stay. We need to make the right use of these players, which may not be the long-term roles necessity as the mother invention. Star Wars, you're right. And what Jose Alvarado has done has really kind of thrown this thing into a little bit of a, not a panic, but maybe a little bit off the axle, right? A little bit. The Phillies' next 7 games are Rockies at A's, and Phillies should go 7-0. But I'm going with 5-2. 5-2 would be bad, Michael. They better go 7-0. They're going to need to go 7-0. I would be really depressed with 5-2. But we'll see. That's going to wrap me up. Listen, guys, I want to thank you for a great show. Thank you for coming out, supporting me. Thank you for being here with this network. Thank you for staying up with me all hours of the night. I want to remind everybody that there will not be a final word tomorrow, but there will be a Birds Blast at 8 o'clock. Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn returns. Me and Kyle will go over the draft. We'll talk free agency and the schedule release. Also, tomorrow night, the Fighting's Final will be back, and you'll be seeing me on that as well. So, and I'll be coming at you around 11:30 or so. We got a late start out there in Colorado, so I'll be out there going out for the Fighting's Final one more night, and then here's the rest of the Fighting's Final lineup, and then everything else that we got going on the program, which includes, of course, the PM and the AM program every Sunday. Every Thursday night at 9 is the Tacking Third, and then my show, Final Word, when we can get it in these days. I don't even know. Can't even figure out when we can do our own show. But we're going to try to do whatever we can, try to move all the pieces around and make them all fit, and be there for you every single night. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Appreciate the support, as always. And please like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend. Tell an enemy. And, let's do it. Let's have some fun. So until we talk again tomorrow night on the Birds Blast and on the Fighting's Final, you guys have a great rest of your night and even better tomorrow. Take care.